Well, hello there. This is Shane from Shane's Books and Review. I hope that you are having a good day today and that you're being safe. Social distancing being what it should be and all that. So what are we going to be talking about today? Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different from what we usually do. It is the Odyssey, wrote by Homer, specifically the version on Audible, because there are a lot of versions. This one is translated by Emily Wilson and it was narrated by Claire Danes. And just a brief forward, I know that this is one of those things that it's in our lane, but it's outside of our lane. It does fall under fantasy and sci-fi / fantasy / detective stuff. I want to give a heads up. I did enjoy the story, but I'm going to say some things about the production of this and the choices that they made. You're going to be listening for about 4 hours before you actually get to the meat and the potatoes of the actual book. I understand what they were trying to do, but they didn't have to go on about it so much, because if you truly love what you're doing and you're a translator, it's going to be understood. If you're going from language A to language B, but there's going to be some nuance, some things that just don't translate very well. They could have said, hey, if you want to know more about the way that we went about this, stay tuned after the end of the book. That way, those of us that just want the Odyssey and don't want all the other stuff, that would have been great. Also, it was very repetitive what they were saying inside of this. I got about 30 or 40 minutes into it and I was like, I just don't care at this point. And it wasn't that I was being mean. All this stuff started to sound like excuses. Now, whenever it actually comes to the Odyssey, wrote by Homer, for the modern day, the story is phenomenal. The story is really good. But with the language, if you're just going straight translation, then there's a lot of those little things that have just been lost. And that's probably why a lot of people in school have issues with it. Yes. So Odysseus is trying to get back home. He has upset gods. Poseidon is really upset. It's just really funny in the opening areas because Odysseus, he's been played with so much by the gods in the past that he just doesn't trust any of them at first. For instance, he's out on a raft and he's been floating after this stuff has happened with the Cyclops and him calling himself nobody and that kind of thing. It was a goddess. And she said, hey, if you get off your raft and you swim from this island to that island, I'll make sure you get home immediately. And he's like, no, I think gods are trying to play tricks on me again, and I'm just going to stay on my raft until it all falls apart. And it's starting to look that way, but yeah, I'm staying right here. And so that makes his journey so much longer because Poseidon's doing his best to destroy Odysseus. Odysseus goes to a island where there's people that are favored by Zeus. And then there's those other gods that are involved. It was Athena. And so Athena, she keeps giving him hints and clues and helping him out by changing his appearance whenever he goes places. And after people will take care of him or help him, then she'll give him a very upright looking, make him into very handsome, kind of transform him a little bit so that it's more favorable for him to do what he needed to do. And the reason why is because I believe that in the Greek society, there was particular aspects of beauty that if you had, it put you above everybody, regardless of what your actual personality was. And so she was manipulating these things to help him along, especially on the island of Zeus. After he got washed, she made him turn into a godlike appearance. And there's a lot of that in this retelling of the Odyssey, of just the person was godlike, or this person was godlike in this, or their appearance was godlike. Long of it all is, he makes some gods mad. He makes some kind of happy and intrigued. They help him or try to not help him until he gets back to where his homestead is. Now, in the background, there's some other things that are going on. The household that he had, he's a king. He had a lot of wealth before he took off on this adventure, the last one. His wife Penelope and his son Telemachus, and he was very whiny kind of a character, but it was kind of rightfully so. I mean, he was kind of small in stature. He wasn't like his father that could do these incredible feats of strength. He was more of kind of like a bookwormish. Telemachus, he's fussing and complaining a lot in the first part of the book. It all has to do with these suitors that have come to try to marry his mother, Penelope. And Penelope, she was a loving wife and is a loving wife. She's very much mournful, and she's a very unique and interesting, very witty sort of an individual. So much so that she was actually praised by her husband whenever he returns back to the house. And he's like, I need you to do this, but as smart as you are, you probably already know this. Him showing his ability to trust in his wife and her intelligence and what she would want to do, would be the best for him and his household and herself as well. So I think that's the way that was meant, because the way that it was transcribed, it really came off pig-headed. That's the best way to put that. So talking about her curiosity and her wit, whenever Odysseus had left, he said, if I don't return, whenever my son is growing a beard, then marry somebody else. But what she was doing was she had found a very interesting way to push it off. So she was making this blanket, and she's like, fine, whenever I finish this blanket, I'll pick somebody. But at night, she was unraveling it, or having her maids help her unravel it. That was very clever on her part. It was very good, because it was like the blanket of ever weave. It just continuously was worked on. Telemachus, he was kind of whiny at first, but then he started to stop trying to compare himself to his father and his father's abilities, and started to accept himself for who he was. That was an excellent thing to see. It was good to see that character develop, that person starting to realize, I don't have to be him. I can be who I am, and start to make their own path. That was good. Also, the way that he started to stand up and say, hey, listen, you guys are jerks. Stop destroying our stuff. Stop wasting all of our things. And please, for the love of God, go away. But of course, he didn't have enough rear end to back up his words, and so they just ignored him. So, you know, that had to suck to be him in that regard. Now, Odysseus, he has this long track, and he eventually does get back, and he has to be very sneaky whenever he gets back to his house, to his home front, to his homestead. And the reason why is because these suitors are such pigs. I mean, in every sense of the word. They're eating up all the food. They're drinking all the fine wines. They're destroying the house, being mean to the servants, and in fact taking some of the servants forcibly to bed. They're defiling everything that has to do with Odysseus and his family and his house. And that's really not cool. They figured out they could settle in, and as long as nobody was picked, then they could just stay where they were and suck up this guy's wealth and enjoy a very fat, very nice, lavish lifestyle that they wouldn't be able to afford on their own. So Odysseus had to be sneaky, because there was designs from the suitors to kill Telemachus and to try to kill Odysseus if he came back home. So he worked with his servants. He was in disguise because Athena had disguised him as to look like a beggar. All these things just continuously were happening in the background, in between this person doing this or this. It was a very interesting telling of it. So kudos. I know I was destroying some of this earlier, but kudos to the translation, and or kudos actually to Homer, because regardless of the translation, the story was still intriguing enough, if it wasn't even in a rhyming sort of a style, that it kept me going through it. So well done. I did enjoy the story overall, especially whenever he gets home and he and his son unite. His son knows that it's his father, but nobody else does. They all think he's a beggar. Odysseus sneakily finds out who's in his camp still, and then, you know, gives the orders to do this and this, and they strike back and they take care of the situation. And that was really cool. That was good to see. And then also the way that the poem was just wrapped up. I really enjoyed him getting to spend some time with his wife, because there was a deal he made where he would have to leave again and take a oar all the way to this one place where they don't have oars, and he would know about blah blah blah. But he had a bit of solace. He was able to reconnect with his wife and say, look, I've got to go do this, and the gods have told me that if I do this, then I will have a very happy and fulfilled life for the rest of my days. So that was really cool. Now, knowing the gods and their trickery that he was dealing with, it could have been that his days only lasted 4 after he delivered said oar. But with that being what it is, it's my hopes that he did fulfill a really, really good life, even though he was a character in a poem. What did the book make me think or feel while I was going through it? I keep saying book and poem interchangeably because they kind of are. There was parts of wonder for me because of the fantasy of the gods and the goddesses and their interactions with Odysseus and the way that would influence people and animals around him. There was a bit of, could you please just suck it up and do something about your situation and fix it whenever it came to his son Telemachus. And that was one of my joys of watching him go into being more of himself instead of being a big complainer. I don't know if he would have done it on his own if his father hadn't have come home. The other portions that I felt was just, we can all relate to that. You know, the portion of you see something happen in a book and then you completely understand why, and you're like, Well played. And I would be interested to go through more books like this from the past type of an era, especially Homer. It seems like I really like him. And so that brings me around to the question of the week. Yes, I know we do mostly sci-fi, some fantasy, detective type novels, but is there any interest whatsoever for this kind of a thing? Would you guys and gals like to see more of the classic literature being gone over? I know for myself, some of the things that I'm more interested in, just for my personal reading, is philosophy. I haven't really ever dove into that, but recently I've had some friends of mine tell me a couple of things, and I'm just like, I might want to check these things out. So if you would like to have some more classical literature or maybe philosophies of different sorts gone over, that would be really cool to me. Let me know in that comment box down there, and we'll see about doing something about that. I don't think we would start a new channel per se, but we'd probably put them up here just the same, and then we can have a conversation about them. I would absolutely love to do that. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. It's up to you. Just let me know. If you've made it this far, you are my personal hero because you are better than the postmaster. You, regardless of it raining or hailing or snowing, have managed to deliver my parcel whenever they can't even find that local IRS office. Like, share, subscribe. This is Shane with Shane's Books and Review. I hope that you're being safe. Don't let the road get to you too much. Remember, take a breath whenever you are more than 12 feet away from somebody else. I'm not sure which video that YouTube's going to want you to watch over here, but regardless, if you pick this one or this one, hopefully I will see you in the next video.